In Richard Dawkins' book, The God Delusion, he argues that morality comes not from revelation, but from natural selection of altruistic traits that help to form a society. And this is one of Richard Dawkins' big arguments against religion, is that we don't need religion to have morality because morality is natural to us through evolution. But the criticism that I have of this is basically that he uses the same line of thinking in order to discredit religion. So Richard Dawkins says that morality is binding on us. We have a binding morality because of natural selection. And he also criticizes religion as a product of natural selection that's something that we should not hang on to, something that we should get rid of as a people. So it's pretty clear that Richard Dawkins doesn't actually see products of natural selection as necessarily true or right or binding. And he believes that we should filter out things that have come into our species through natural selection that we don't think we should hold on to, such as religion. Yet when it comes to morality, Richard Dawkins seems to think that morality is something that we should hang on to, but he doesn't really provide a very good justification for why we should hang on to morality and not religion or spirituality. I think this line of thinking that morality comes through natural selection naturally leads to moral relativism. And basically this is because if our morality comes from us ourselves, from within us, naturally through evolution, it's developed within us, then we are basically our own authority on what's moral and what's not, since there is actually no true, actual moral law. Moral law is what we make it, basically. And so this leads to moral relativism, where basically it's not really possible for one person to criticize another person's morality. Who's to say that my morality is better than your morality? And, we should all allow each other to develop our own morality and live by our own morality. Now, most of the time, moral relativism doesn't really get us into a lot of trouble, and that's because most people have very similar ideas of morality. I think Richard Dawkins is actually right in that a lot of our moral beliefs are natural to us. We all have a conscience and that sense of conviction that gives us all basic, similar moral standard. So usually, even if a person is totally accepting of moral relativism, it usually doesn't come up as a problem because they don't usually have to convince anybody else of, that murder is wrong or that theft is wrong, things like that, because we mostly agree on those things. But one place where I think that moral relativism really shows up is in the abortion debate. So I've participated in some debates with people about abortion, and for anyone who's done that on either side of the argument, you probably know that it's usually not very productive. And I think the reason for that is because the abortion debate at its core isn't really about abortion. So on one side, we have pro-lifers who argue that the termination of human life in the womb is an objective moral evil and must be stopped. Then on the other side, you have pro-choicers. And notice they're called pro-choice and not pro-abortion. And that's because I think most people, even pro-choicers, are actually against abortion personally. They think that it's really a terrible thing, really a regrettable thing, and would like to see less of it happen because it's really not a good thing to have. But pro-choicers then, I think that they take a moral relativistic sort of point of view, and even though they might themselves think that abortion is wrong, they feel that they cannot impose that belief on anyone else because they take this view of moral relativism. If someone else doesn't think it's wrong, then who are they to tell someone else what's right and what's wrong if morality is just defined by ourselves? So that's really the core of what that abortion debate is about, I think, is whether morality is objective and whether we can hold other people to a morality that they might not necessarily agree with naturally. But if morality is objective, then we can hold people to a standard. Whether or not they disagree is sort of irrelevant. An example or an illustration that I would give to sort of explain this a little bit better is with the idea of objective truth. So most people, I think, agree that there is objective truth in the universe. It is objectively true that I exist. Maybe you might doubt my existence. You might want to test my existence, but still you would believe that there is, an objective truth about that. Either I exist or I don't. I think there are some people out there that would disagree with this, but those people would not be scientists. Science is really based on the idea that there is objective truth, and that this truth can be discovered through methods of testing and observation. And in this sort of idea of the universe as having objective truth, then we can debate, we can have discussions in science. So two people might have been studying the same thing in science and come to different conclusions, might have different theories about it. But no one's going to take the position that, well, you have your theory and I have my theory. Because it's science and we're looking for objective truth, those two positions are going to counter each other, and they're going to basically compete to determine which is the true theory for whatever phenomena they're looking at. And no one's going to settle for, letting people have different truths about the universe, because it can't be that way. We want the truth, not just someone's idea of the truth. So not all ideas are equal. And I think, that's what science sort of rests on. And you can take a similar sort of approach to morality. If you are not a moral relativist, that means you believe that there is some kind of objective moral law, just like there's an objective truth about the universe. So, each person in the universe might have some different ideas about the moral law, just like different people in the universe have different ideas about, how the stars formed, or, people have debated and learned throughout history more and more, and there have been different theories about all sorts of different scientific ideas. But just because there are differences in ideas about science doesn't mean that there's more than one truth. And it's the same with morality, I think. Even though everyone doesn't agree on everything, that doesn't mean that there isn't an objective, true morality. And so we should never settle for just saying, well, you have your ideas and I have my ideas. We should go after that objective moral truth, that objective moral law, and we should strive to adapt our personal morality always to better reflect the moral law. Just as we do in science, we try to adapt our rationality and our thinking perception of the universe to reflect the actual objective truth of the universe. So the question then basically is there an objective moral law? And I talked about abortion before, and that's something that's controversial and not everyone agrees on. But just as an example of how moral relativism can be problematic. But imagine that you encountered a person, say a serial killer, and this person really did not believe that killing people was wrong. They just didn't have it in their conscience to believe that killing people was wrong. So how would you explain to them why them killing people is the wrong thing to do without appealing to some kind of higher standard that's above both of you, something that's objective, that makes killing other human beings wrong. You have to appeal beyond just your personal feelings about it. And I think this really points to the fact that there is an objective moral law, and we all appeal to it all the time. When you're a kid and you're having an argument with another kid about, who gets to play with this toy, and how you're going to take turns, you don't justify it based on, well, I feel like this, I feel like that. You say, no, it's not fair, And we have this understanding of fairness and this objective morality that's above what either of us think. And if we look on other societies in the past, think about societies where there was human sacrifice of children to, some of the gods that they had. And, you could look back on it and say that those people thought that they were doing the right thing, they were trying to do the right thing. And, who are we to judge, that they sacrificed and killed their own children to appease a god? But most of us would look back on it and say, no, that was wrong. No matter if every person in that society thought that it was okay, and even if the child thought that it was okay, it was still wrong. And the reason why it's wrong is because there's an objective right and wrong in the situation. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks about it. There's still a right and a wrong. And so I think most of us really do believe that there is an objective moral law. And when you think about it, the more you think about it, the more it just seems to be the truth. So perhaps someone can offer another idea here, but to me, I don't understand how this can be true, that there is an objective moral law which is above what any human thinks about morality, that an objective truth about morality. I don't know how this can exist unless there is a moral law giver. And I don't mean this in the sense that there's a God who wrote a list of rules and these became the truth, and then because God is powerful and can enforce them, then that's what makes them right. And there's always the accusation that Christians are good just because they're afraid that their scary parent in heaven is going to punish them if they don't do what he says, things like that. And that's really not a very good understanding of what Christian morality is really about. But what I mean instead is that if there is objective morality, it must have a source, because it doesn't come from the universe itself. There's nothing about evolution or evolutionary processes that gives some kind of basis for objective morality. Natural selection isn't concerned about morality. It's only concerned about carrying forth the species. And so this moral law, if it's objective, has to come from something that's above the universe, above, or at least above people, beyond people. And to me, that suggests a moral lawgiver. And so going back to my previous video, I talked about how the primary cause of the universe must also be moral. And I think that that's true. Just as the primary cause of the universe must be rational to have this rationality in the universe, the primary cause must also be moral, and that's why morality is objective. And I think we all recognize that, at least at some level within us, this objective truth about what's right and what's wrong. So we can debate about this objective truth. And I'm not going to say that Christianity has the true moral law. Although I do agree with that, I wouldn't say that it's immediately clear based on what I've said so far. But I think that once we get to the point where we can debate about what is the moral law, what does it say, what is the meaning of it, think then we're in the right place to really find true morality. And moral relativism really just kind of has us giving up, when instead we should treat morality kind of the way that we treat science. And we should always be pursuing greater and greater knowledge of this objective moral law, and always be refining our morality to fit it, instead of trying to just define our own morality and letting everyone have their own ideas. So yeah, that's all that I have to say about this topic. Well, let me know if you have any questions. I'd love to talk about it more. I think this is a really interesting topic, and I don't know a ton about it or anything, but let me know what you think. Bye.